Good afternoon. Welcome to the October 13th Civil Service Commission meeting. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Devine. Commissioner Ttis.
Here.
Commissioner Gregorian is...
For the record, he indicated he's running about 10 minutes late.
Chairman Ukian.
Here. What's next?
Minutes.
Gentlemen.
Second.
May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Devine. Commissioner Ttis.
Yes.
Chairman Ukian.
Yes.
And for the record, Commissioner Gregorian is absent.
What's next?
Oral communications.
Okay. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Commission may question the speaker, but there will be no debate or discussion. I see no cards. Anyone in the audience who would like to speak? I see none. What's next?
Recruitment and examination status report.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, the Recruitment and Examination Status Report is attached for your review. This is not an action item, but simply a reflection of the recruitment activity that's currently being undertaken by staff. So you can see each of the staff members listed along with the recruitments that they have at various stages. And if you have any questions at all about this report, be happy to try and answer them.
Gentlemen, any questions? I see none. What's next?
Eligible list established.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this item, like the previous, is for your information only. It does have the eligible lists that have been established since our last meeting, which was approximately two or 3 weeks ago. You can see we have 7 lists that have been established, most of them on a promotional basis. We have 1 open. The report does indicate the total number of applications received for each, and then in the far right column, the number of individuals who actually made it through the process, made it onto the eligibility list. Again, we have, looks like, I believe it's 6 that we have, 4 with GWP, 1 with Public Works, 1 with Police. If you have any questions about any of those, be happy to try and answer them.
Gentlemen, any questions? I see none. What's next?
Revised Class Specification and Job Bulletin for approval. Police Supervisory and Management Series. Police Captain.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this item has 2 parts to it. The first being the revision of the class specification for the Police Supervisory and Management Series. The second part would be the requested approval of the Job Bulletin for Police Captain. The deal with the class specification portion of this recruitment, essentially what we're doing is looking at the specification that contains the classifications of police sergeant, police lieutenant, and police captain, but really only focusing on police captain at the present time. We're about to undertake a recruitment for the police captain position, and there are a few modifications that the police chief is seeking to that particular classification. Really, it's an attempt to sort of beef up the minimum qualifications for the position in 2 areas. One, to require 2 years experience as a Glendale police lieutenant, whereas currently it only requires 1. And the second is a requirement that applicants possess a management post certificate. With regard to the increasing of the experience requirement from 1 to 2 years, I think between the police chief and human resources staff, I think we all concur that simply 1 year as a police lieutenant is not sufficient to prepare someone for promotion to captain, which is a very high-level, responsible position in the police department. In fact, police lieutenants essentially serve a 1-year probation. So if we leave this as it is, you'd essentially have individuals coming off probation and then all of a sudden becoming eligible to become a captain. And we feel that that's not appropriate, and at least 2 years ought to be the minimum standard. With regard to the management post certificate, again, this is the post stands for Peace Officer Standards Training, and there are various certificates that can be attained. This is one of the more advanced level. My understanding is that all the individuals who would be eligible as current lieutenants right now to promote to captain do possess this post-certificate. So with that, that's essentially what I wanted to cover on the specification. As far as the job bulletin, the job bulletin is essentially consistent with the revisions that are being proposed on the class specification. The civil service rules do require approval of job bulletin for all sworn safety promotional recruitments of the commission. So with that, we're seeking your approval on this particular bulletin. Should we get approval for the bulletin for police captain, we do intend to open this quickly by tomorrow and have it open through the requisite 2 weeks. So with that, be happy to try and answer whatever questions you may have. I do want to indicate Chief DePompa is here, as is Captain Leif Nicolaisen and Manya Hunanian from my staff, if there are further questions.
Just a quick comment. First of all, regarding this 2 years, to be very honest with you, I was absolutely surprised that we hadn't made this change, the requirement for 2 years. I mean, I was extremely surprised that we didn't have a minimum of 2 years.
Yes.
And in going to the post requirements, this really brings us in line with most of the post requirements, because when you go in there and look at the requirements to get the advanced management certificates, you see that it requires 2 years as a sergeant, 2 years as a lieutenant. So really this brings the entire item in line with where we should have been to begin with. So I applaud this. And also, I just want to clarify a couple things. I know, getting back to the sergeants and the lieutenants item, we're removing the requirement for the bachelor's and the BA and the BS degrees, correct?
That's not correct, Mr.
That's
Chair.
not, okay.
No. Those are being left as is
Okay.
for the time being. You may be looking at your handout, and what it shows is a deletion of specific language on the bulletin that provides effective dates for those degree requirements.
Okay. So just change the effective date, not the requirement itself.
I didn't get a handout.
I'm sorry?
There's a handout other than what I got in the packet. I didn't get it.
No, I think he's referring to the packet.
Referring to the packet that lists.
You didn't have it? I have it in the packet. What are you talking about? I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Okay. Under the, where it talks about the class for police sergeant and police lieutenants, there's two sections that shows deletion of the BA and the BS degree requirements.
No, I don't think it does. I think what it does
That's
is
what I'm trying to clarify.
gets rid of superfluous language that talked about that was effective
Phasing in.
prior to 2004.
That's what I want to confirm.
That's correct.
So the requirements still are there. It's
The
just we're
requirements
changing the verbiage.
are the same.
Okay.
Subject to being changed later on when we look at the lieutenant and
And there is an intent.
I mean, I don't know that, but that's...
There is an intent to look at those as well. But for the time being, we're just dealing with the captain's exam because we have the captain's classification, because there's an exam that's upcoming.
Another thing that I had a question on, when you go into the education requirements, where it talks about you need to have a bachelor's degree with major coursework in police science, public or business administration, or related field. Is there a specific clarification on that as far as what is considered related fields?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, there is no real guidance on that. And this is fairly common language in most of our specifications citywide. And it's the whole notion that, we could probably sit here and list every single discipline that potentially could qualify someone adequately for a position. But there are all kinds of new majors in college now, and we, instead of trying to list every potential thing, we would say or related field. And I think that's largely up to the judgment of the staff reviewing these applications. It says business administration. I mean, and someone has a degree, for example, in finance or something like that. that's something that we would probably accept because it's similar to a degree in business administration. A lot of schools don't offer a public administration degree. For example, this college I went to, you had to get it if you were interested in public administration. You had to get a degree in political science. Well, that's not listed there, but somebody with a degree in political science who has a sufficient background in public administration might be a good candidate for this kind of a position. So it's just a means of allowing somewhat some degree of flexibility, and again, those of us who review these applications as they're received, in my view, it's kind of what we're paid for, to make those judgments and determine what's related and what's not.
Okay, one last question. Under the minimum requirements where it talks about the ability to climb walls and structures, is there a fitness test involved with this or no?
For
the captain's position?
Police captain's position, no.
No. It's just part of the requirements that those are some of the items that are required.
Correct. I mean, again, this is a specification, and I assume you're looking at the specification, not the
Exactly.
bulletin. Specification covers sergeant, lieutenant, captain, all of them.
Okay.
And so there's a general need, particularly at the lieutenant and sergeant level, for more patrol work and more chasing of suspects and that sort of thing, so to speak. So it's included in the specification, although the exam
There's no testing for it.
not at this level.
Gentlemen, questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Ttis.
Well, I notice it requires a skill in applying common sense and logic in decision-making. Have we applied that in the past to some of our captains? Or? That was a joke, Leaf. That was a joke, Leaf.
If the lightning's going to strike, please strike that way. Yes, sir.
He's just big energized, but he's
I guess I got to drive.
I have
home
a
tonight,
question
huh?
from
Yeah.
police chief.
No, I do. I still have.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I did have a question. I
Oh, that was
just
very
noticed that. In doing have we culled the available lieutenants that are qualified for this position to move up to captain?
Yes.
In making this change, how many do we anticipate being qualified? I understand they may not apply, but
I may need to refer to the chief or Manya.
After that comment, I don't know, Chief, you might want to take out your gun.
I got to drive home.
I asked Mr. Gantis what type of vehicle he drives.
It's being towed as we speak.
The tow truck is on its way.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members of Commission, currently we have 11 lieutenants. And with this change, as best as we can calculate, 9 would be eligible to proceed to the captain's test.
Perfect. Thank you. The question about one of the questions I always have in going through this selection process, we have 2 panels. Is it still the same, Matt, that they have to pass one panel and then the other? If they fail one, they don't move to the other? Is that still the requirement?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gannis, that is correct. They have to pass all components of the exam, both panels, as well as I believe there's a written exercise, which would be part of that.
And that's what we've done in the past. Somehow I thought I recall it was only an oral in the past, but I could be wrong. I am wrong often.
My recollection from the last, at least captain's exam, is that there was a community panel and a professional panel.
With a written assessment, not totally oral.
I don't recall if there was a written
I believe there was
assessment.
a written exercise that then is provided to the panels to be used as part of their formulation for their questions. And
That's what this written
I
assessment
think
is.
that's our intent, to follow that same protocol.
I have nothing further.
Mr. Gregorian.
Yes, police chief. I mean, during the previous administration, we did have a very nice, very good assistant police chief that he was doing a fantastic job. So, do you think that
You're going to have your car get home tonight.
Add it to the list.
I want to give you that right? So, I'm pushing for that. Do you think that are you considering that kind of a position? I mean, just some idea. It's
You
nice
know,
to have it.
And historically, the assistant chief's position, in recent history anyway, really worked well in terms of providing a chief operational officer within the organization to oversee the 4 divisional captains and their operations, and allowed the chief to be unencumbered with that daily operation to deal with community issues and be more responsive externally. Unfortunately, as part of our budget cuts over the last 2 fiscal years, we've lost 17 sworn positions. One of them was, in fact, the assistant chief of police. So that is no longer available to us, and there are no plans in the immediate future to reinstate that or to even ask for that, given our economic condition. So for that reason, it has, again, highlighted the importance of the captain's position, because now they are truly the second in commands. In my absence, any one of the captains will step in and serve as the acting police chief. So all the more reason for looking at enhancing the experience level and making the education and certificate more commensurate with the duties and responsibilities there.
Okay, thank you.
This is why this guy's our chief. Very well spoken, chief, really. Sorry.
On the job specs, under licenses and certifications, there's nothing listed there, but when you look at the bulletin itself, it does show a category for license and one for certificate. So before you finalize it, you might want to just make sure they're both parallel, and so there's no confusion between the specs and the job bulletin.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, could you tell us, I want to see where you are, please.
Okay, if you look at page 2 of 4 on the job specs,
Yes.
under licenses and certifications.
Okay.
I think what you're missing is that's where it's at, valid Class C,
Oh,
California.
You're right. It got printed on the next page.
Yeah, that's
And that-
probably just fell in there.
And that applies to all of the classifications in this series, sergeant,
I
lieutenant,
missed that.
captain.
I apologize.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Gentlemen, what's your pleasure? Do I have a
So
motion?
moved. I need to move it. I got to get home, so I'm making the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Devine.
Yes.
Commissioner Gantis.
Yes.
Commissioner Gregorian.
Yes.
Chairman Ukin.
Yes. What's next?
HR Annual Activity Report.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this item is the annual activity report prepared by staff to essentially inform the Commission of various activities relating to both civil service and the activities of the Human Resources Department. This report is compiled at the conclusion of the fiscal year. It contains a broad array of information on really work activity, data relative to recruitment, testing, employee relations activity, separations and employment, and a variety of areas here. This report is compiled by Debbie Mallon from our staff. She does a really great job compiling this from a variety of different sources. And what we do is we present this for your review, and it's a information-only item. There's no action required here. But after you see it, we then bring it forth to the City Council and run it by them. A provision in the charter that we discovered a few years back does require that the Commission report annually to the City Council on its activities, and we essentially use this report to provide that purpose. So assuming you're all okay with that, we will go ahead and forward this to the City Council probably in the next few weeks. But again, this report addresses just a variety of information, statistical information from the 2009-2010 fiscal year. And Be happy to go over various parts with you or answer your questions, but just a few things that I would like to highlight, which I don't think would take very long, just to show, and a lot of it we address in the summary, but there is a relatively consistent amount of recruitments that we're doing. We're down a bit from previous years, but a very similar number from last year. And as you'll see from the report, it does provide the previous fiscal year as a comparison, so you can see how we compare from one year to the next. But as far as recruitments and tests, typically we have a little bit higher activity. And again, we've been under such a fiscal strain with our budget that the recruitment activity and hiring in general has been a bit lower. However, we are seeing a relatively high number of applicants for jobs, which is more or less a reflection of the economy and people that are out there looking for work. We're seeing large numbers of applicants for our open recruitments. The promotional recruitments, which are full-fledged recruitment processes that require almost as much work as the open recruitments, we still end up with more of a restricted number. But for various recruitments, we are seeing as many as 200 to 300 applicants for a single job, which can be very challenging for those people applying, and certainly for the staff that's addressing that. A couple other things to highlight. We always like to look at our separations and how our turnover looks. And for an organization this size, we still do have a relatively low turnover, approximately 4.85, 4.86% over the past year, which is even down slightly from the previous year, which was 4.98. And that's in spite of the fact that we are seeing a high number of retirements over the course of the past few years. We get in the neighborhood of anywhere from 50 to 55 retirements each year. So that number is relatively high and stays somewhat consistent, but the separations due to other reasons, namely resignations, people quitting city employment, going elsewhere, that's very, very low. Most people who work here want to stay here, again, unless they're of retirement age. I also want to point out the labor relations activity, where we have had somewhat less work to do in the recruitment and testing area. Very busy year in the labor relations area. We have 4 employee associations and 4 bargaining units, and 2 of their contracts expired this year. So we had negotiations with those 2 employee associations. In addition to that, we requested the other 2 employee associations to reopen their contracts to see if they would be willing to offer some concessions, and that occurred over the past year. So over the course of this year, at various times, we had been negotiating with all 4 of our bargaining units, which is very, very time-consuming. But from that standpoint, that's more or less relating to the budgetary situation we have and the request of staff to try and seek some concessions in those areas. One other area I do want to highlight is at Glendale University, and I got a call earlier from Commissioner Gregorian asking me, what is this Glendale University? And I believe the current commissioners all know it's an in-house training and development program that is ministered by my office, and we do is well over 100 training programs each year for the benefit of our employees. And I do want to say, in spite of the budgetary challenges that we've faced in the past few years, one area that we are absolutely not sacrificing is our need to continue to train and develop our employees, our human resource. And And I'm proud to say that we do a lot of training. We get a lot of accolades for the programs that we do, and we're able to do it for a relatively low cost. Many of the classes that are presented by in-house training instructors, people like myself, the city attorney, other various managers throughout the organization. There's a few from the police department. Lieutenant Monticello teaches classes for us. A lot of really good talent internally, and we save a great deal of money by offering these programs with our own trainers. But we do, again, at times hire people from the outside for a particular area. But I do want to commend Amy Martin, who is a person who coordinates our training program, the Glendale University program. She's very shrewd with the budget and gets a lot of training for a very small budgeted amount within our training budget. So very, very, very proud of that. And again, as this organization goes through the current budgetary challenges that we have, I will say we are not going to sacrifice our need to train and develop, particularly in the areas of supervision and management. As you can see from this report, we're getting a large number of retirements each year, losing a lot of people with institutional knowledge on how this organization operates, and we want to make sure that the next generation is adequately trained. So, and those are just some of the highlights. But if there's anything in this report you'd like further clarification on, I'd be happy to try and answer the questions. And I do apologize for Ms. Mellon not being here. She, of course, puts this together and pretty well knows the data inside and out. Unfortunately, she had a death in the family recently, and so she's traveling to funeral services right now. So with that, again, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them for you.
Any questions? Chairman, Commissioner
You're
Gantis.
Mr. Chairman. I'm Commissioner Gantis. It's really more of a comment. Debbie, as many of us know, does all of these very detailed reports that we get, not only for this, she does the advertising budgets, she does a number of them, and her reports are always outstanding and nothing less than outstanding. We're very, very fortunate to have her on staff because it's always something that's clear and to the point, and we can understand it, and it makes a lot of sense. And of course, this is a matter of, I assume it's a matter of public record, so members of the public can come in and request it, and if they want a copy, it's like, 25 cents a page, so they might spend $2. Or is this also on the in the report that's on the in the city website right now?
It will be.
Okay, so it'll be on the city website. They can access that for free and see exactly what this city does, how it operates, the kinds of employees that we have, the numbers, and the fact that, as you've indicated, the separations, while we had 90 separations, I think it was 55 of them were retirements and one was by death, so we have 56 that are basically not something dealing with what the city of Glendale does. And of course, those of us that sit on this commission know that we've had on a number of occasions people that leave the city, they come back because they find some outside the city isn't as good as the city. So I want you to I would like to personally thank Debbie for all the wonderful work she does, and please convey to her my continued feeling of her outstanding work.
Will do.
Yeah, I think we all agree, and her reports are very straightforward and very, very easy for you to find the information that you need. So I do agree. Okay, any other comments? Okay, what's next?
Agenda forecast.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, the agenda forecast is here for your review. Looking at the upcoming meetings, we will have our advertising budget expenditures report at our next meeting, and we do anticipate a couple of other items, probably a bulletin or specification or two. And then on the November the 10th, the next meeting, we are preparing a presentation on the role of the Commission, and with a special emphasis on employee rights under the Commission's authority. If you have anything you'd like to add, we'll go ahead and put them on for future agendas. That's all I have.
All right. Any comments? Any questions? Okay. What's next?
Reports and information.
Past due employee. Commissioner Gantis, you want to handle that?
Yes, sir. This I always do, honoring our, I guess he's still a member of the commission, Roy Coleman. I can't help but think of Roy when we do this. Those that have no past dues are the city clerk's office, the city manager's office, finance department, fire department with 223 salaried employees, water and power, 383 salaried employees, no past dues, human resources, police with 363, too bad the chief wasn't here to hear this, and public works with 290 employees, again, no past due reports. So we are really seem to be doing very, very well, and it's incredible that we're less than minuscule percentage of those that are outstanding in terms of evaluations. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. What's next?
Civil Service Commission and staff comments.
Commissioner Gregorian, I think you have an announcement.
Well, I hate to say this, Bob's Yusefian mother passed away this morning. So the funeral is going to be the coming Friday, 10 a.m. at St. Mary's Armenian Church in South Central, which following the funeral service is going to be at Glendale Forest, not Glendale, the Hollywood Forest Lawn.
Our condolences to Mr. Yusefian and his family.
The former mayor and council person, council member, Mr. Bob Yusefian. So we wish him all the best and all the luck.
And I would like to suggest that we adjourn in the memory of his mother tonight.
Absolutely.
Do we have a name?
Yes, Mardeza Yusefian.
Okay. You can spell that for the record.
It's Mardza.
Okay.
Fantastic. Okay.
Thank you.
What's next?
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
if I may, I do want to recognize a member of my staff today, and I don't know if any of you, well, I know Commissioner Devine was there at the Fire Department Awards banquet, but I do want to recognize our great Senior Human Resources Analyst, Manya Hunanian, who received the Fire Chief's Commendation today for her great service to the city and to the fire department. Manya is the analyst who works with, she works with various city departments. One of the largest is, of course, the fire department, and she does just an outstanding job servicing their needs from a recruitment standpoint, from a labor relations standpoint, and employee relations. She's pretty much 24/7 their resources for all things HR, and she's done an outstanding job. And again, I wanted to recognize her for having received the Fire Chief's Commendation today.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
Congratulations.
Knowing Fire Chief, I have a question. You are sure that we are not going to lose her to fire department? Huh? She's not going to go over there.
I don't see her climbing the rope and doing some of the physical exams that are necessary.
I also want to make a comment. Congratulations. You deserve it. I just remembered I had an opportunity to, this weekend was the K-9 presentations and the event that they had at the Verdugo Park, and I want to congratulate the police department and the members of the K-9 unit. They had a fantastic turnout, and I really, really applaud people to support this K-9 program. We need funds for the new set of dogs. I can't believe it's already been almost 5 years that these dogs need to retire, and all of these is done through volunteer, and all of this is done by donations from the public, and I really want to congratulate the department for putting an excellent show, and I really hope people out there will help make donations to continue the K-9 program. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, what's next?
Closed session.
Okay, are we reporting out?
We will be reporting out.
Okay, we are going to be going to closed session, and we will be reporting out.
So adjourn the meeting for